Welcome to Kels and Betsy podcast, where we're talking about raising capital, investing with purpose. So whether you are a new investor or an experienced investor or even a business owner, understanding the art of raising private capital is crucial in today's competitive landscape. Today we have an amazing guest, and her name is April Juliano. She will be talking about how she's raising capital for her business and scaling as well, not to mention being a full-time mama. So this episode is gonna be very interesting, hearing it from the perspective of someone who has a family, doing it, crushing it, full-time, non-stop. I'm your host, Kalisha Carter, and I have my gorgeous co-host, Betsy, which she changed her view today. She's in the mountains. Like, you guys should see her background if you're not watching.
Yes, when this comes out next week, I will be home.
Huh?
Sad. When this comes out next week, I'll be home.
She'll be home. But we were even chatting earlier. It's the point of a lot of us kind of decide to work for ourselves or being an entrepreneur, because to be able to have, they call it like financial freedom, but it could mean so many different things to people. But just being able to go from one location to the next and work wherever you want, when you want, make your own time, all those things. So
yeah, and I'm lucky to have the hubby here, so he's able to go out and take care of the kids, and like I'm working.
And working. Working is fun. It's fun.
I get to choose which fun I get to participate in, which is awesome, which is the goal. It really makes you like focus. Like, this is what I'm
now make it easy. But without further ado, we're gonna invite our gorgeous guest, April Juliano. Hey, how are you? Welcome to our show.
Thank you. Yes, thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part with us.
Yeah, doing good. It's a good day today.
We were chatting earlier before the show popped up, and I was like, "Girl, you are glowing."
Yeah, well, because I actually took a shower today and I had a little bit of makeup, so must be the bronzer.
You look amazing, and her hair is popping.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's good to see you.
You
yes,
too.
ready for having it.
But before we even dive into our conversation, we're just going to jump into our disclaimer, you guys.
Yes, our disclaimer, you guys. The following information is for educational purposes only. Please do your own diligence. We do not provide financial, legal, or professional advice. Everything that we talk about here is from our experience, and every case is different. So please find a certified professional to guide you.
Yes, guys. We're just sharing our experience. And if you're new here, welcome to our show. We just talk about everything raising private capital. If you're not new here, thank you for your support, for always listening, watching, liking, commenting, all those fancy stuff, and tuning in. So, April, like, I know, like, for some persons may not even know who April is, but tell us about April Juliano.
Yes. How did you get here? What's your focus? How did you get your focus here?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's a loaded question. So I am an investor. We do. When I say we, I'm talking about my husband and I. I'm pretty much I pretty much run like the business, and then he does all the things that I need him to do, like all the construction. So we do wholesaling. We have a pretty good flipping, I want to say company, but it's just kind of all a part of the real estate investing business. We do a lot of flips, and that's kind of what he does. He manages all the flips and takes care of all of that, thank goodness, because I got a lot going on. So like, I find the deals, I fund the deals, so I raise all the money for the deals, and then as soon as we have them under contract and then closed, he takes over from there. And then when he's done, I take back over and do the end piece where we're selling the property. And then we also own rentals and Airbnbs. So we have 3 kids. They are 7, 6, because my daughter just turned 6, and 3.5, and then we have one on the way. So I'm 7 months pregnant.
Yep.
Yes, 7 months pregnant.
And she's still busy.
Yeah. There's no stopping. Yep. So we started this. Actually, it's funny because we started this when I say it's funny because I started this when I had a baby. Now I'm having another baby, but I had my third child in 2019.
Yeah.
And when she was 2 months old, I found this wholesaling thing. And I was like wanting to get into my own business. I had actually been a stay-at-home mom for 5 years at that point. And I knew I wanted to work again after my third because I thought that was going to be my last. So I thought, all right, I want to get into my own thing here. And I had to really because were financially not doing very well at the time. And I found this and I'm like, I'm not going back to work. I'm just going to start wholesaling. And so I just kind of like jumped into it full force, and it just kind of rolled from there. And here we are, gosh, it's like 3.5 years later, and we're doing really well. And like Betsy said, like, I'm just really enjoying myself, building my business. I have time for my kids. Well, I think I have time for they're not here right now because they're at school now, but I get to spend time with my kids. I get to be at home. When they come home, then I'm home, and I get to do fun things, stuff that I really want to do. I love it. It's been great.
And because you're working on your own time. I think that's the beauty of it. Like, that alone is amazing. But the fact that, like, for you, like, what was that one thing for you to be like, yes, I'm jumping into wholesale?
So really, my husband was doing some commercial real estate development, which it's funny because I really wasn't into real estate before that. He had been, but on the commercial side. And you just kind of get like focused on one thing. You don't think about the fact that, we could get into the residential side too. Like, we just didn't even think about it. And we were working on a commercial real estate deal in New Jersey, where we're from, and it was literally like a total fluke thing. And basically it didn't get the approvals that it was supposed to get after we had spent like hundreds of thousands of dollars on attorneys. And like, they had they were like, this is going to go through. And it was just one of those things. Now I'm like, it was the Lord, because we had a different path to take.
Yeah.
So we went from like, okay, we're like millionaires to we're destitute almost. Like, thank God we had friends and family. Like, we had money, a little bit of money left over. But we were like, we got to do something really good with this money. Like, there's got to be something. And going back to work was just not an option. Like, can't go from we're going to make millions to I'm going to make $40,000 a year and have to go into an office every day. Plus, I had 3 kids, and I didn't want to do that, So, it's funny because I actually applied for a job with a wholesale company, and I had no idea what it was. And they're a big wholesale outfit around here, and I started doing my research, and I did the interview. I was 8 months pregnant at the time, and they hired me, but they were like, we'll bring you on right after we have the baby. And then I got home, and I was like, I think I can do this on my own. Like, I don't want to go into an office every day. So I talked to my husband about it, and I said, I've owned a restaurant, and I've been in finance. And so I've always had business coaches. So I told him, I'm like, I want to take some of this money, and I want to go hire a business coach or find a mentorship. And I want to learn all of this, and I'm just going to go into it. And he's like, okay, I'm supporting you. We're going to do it together. And then, like, as we started going into it, I'm like, and it looks like you're going to be taking care of the kids because I'm going to be doing this now. So we purchased a mentorship with Wholesaling Inc., the one that Brent Daniels is in, but it wasn't Brent Daniels. It was someone else. Mm-hmm. And I actually just started learning how to do the wholesaling and just went into it. So a couple months later, we decided to do our marketing. We were going to do cold calling, and we were going to do it ourselves. And then March 14th, 2020 hit. And that was literally the very first day we were going to start our cold calling. And I was like, well, no better time. So we went out into the garage, or I went out in the garage and I started cold calling like 5 hours a day. We just pulled some random high equity list, skip traced it. I mean, we didn't even know how to pull lists, you know, skip traced it and just got on the dialer in the garage at our house and started cold calling for 5 hours a day. And I just became completely obsessed. And really the reason why that I became so obsessed is because I knew like, this is it. This has to work or I'm not putting food on the table for my family. And man, it was so hard. It was like, I would just cry some days because it took me at least about 4 months of doing that before I found my first deal. But during that time, what was really cool is that I found Pace Morby.
Yeah.
And he hadn't started his mentorship yet, but he was introducing the whole creative finance realm. And I was very interested in it. And so my first 2 deals, one was a wholesale and one was a sub-2 flip, which is the subject to the mortgage.
Yeah.
It was a flip. So we bought it subject to the mortgage and we flipped it and paid the mortgage off at the end. But and then we joined his mentorship. And then once we joined that mentorship, we were just flying on the networking thing. And that's kind of how everything took off, was by joining the mentorships, networking, and working really, really hard.
I love that you put emphasis on the networking and just the mentorships overall, because I think sometimes a lot of persons have this bad view of what mentorship is. They look at it like this is just an expense, like it's just gonna cost me too much money. But I think you have
to exploit them.
Yeah, and I was like, I think you just have to switch to be like, hey, if I want to get to point Z without taking 10, 15 years and cut the learning curve and have someone to guide you instead of you figuring it out, it goes a long way. Like imagine if you haven't founded the wholesaling program or Pace Morby, maybe you would have got to where you are, but it might have been longer or not.
Yeah.
You know, but
if maybe I would have, because I consider myself a hard worker, and I like to excel at whatever I do. But I definitely think that it would have taken a lot longer, like you said.
Yeah.
And I just, everything would look different, I mean.
And you also put in the work, right? You did the networking. You didn't just stand by on the sidelines just watching.
Right.
I love it, April. April is like, I just dive in.
Yeah. Just dive in, figure it out as you go. We need to make that money. I got your name out there.
Like, my next 100,000.
Yes.
She had her motivation. So which leads me to my next question. With you getting into the business, like what made you decide to, okay, I need to start using other people's money. I need to focus on raising capital. What was that pivoting point?
Well, and again, it's and I find, like you said, I find value in business mentorships, and just that, like, we all need a coach. We all need someone to help us. But when I joined first the Wholesaling Inc. mentorship, I liked the fact that you can wholesale. You don't ever have to use any of your own money, right? And you make a spread. So that's kind of where the idea started. Like, oh my gosh, you can actually like buy and sell properties without using any of your own money and make a little bit of a profit. And so then when I joined Lisa's mentorship, I think it was like the first introduction I had to, you can do this with no money. I mean, when people hear that, they're like, BS, like there's no way.
Yeah.
But it really is true that you can do all of this without any of your own money. And, the money that we had, we needed for ourselves. And so I was like, well, this is the route we have to take, So, for instance, we got into flipping through creative finance with novation agreements.
Mm-hmm.
And we used, our business mentorship. And since it was PACES, I used PACES mentorship to find my lender on my novation agreement. So I got the novation agreement, and then I got my lender just from networking through the mentorship for the novation agreement, and I didn't have to use any of my own money.
What was that like, asking that lender for that money? Like, what was the approach?
So I think so this was a long time ago. I remember who it was. It was Andre Bastardo. Do you guys know who he is?
Oh, yes.
He's in Central Florida. And so this was when there was very few people. There was maybe like 100 people in at the time. Mm-hmm. And, we were all very excited, and we all kind of really knew each other and knew who each other were. Like, you knew everybody in the mentorship at the time.
Yeah.
And he was in Florida. And I can't remember if it was me approaching him. Because, now at this point, I do have a lot of people who approach me now. Because they know that I have a reputation and that I have, I have references, and that I pay my lenders and I pay them back, and they know that. But this was my first one. And so he really just like trusted me based off of what he saw of me off the mentorship. And so I can't remember if he approached me and if I approached him, but I just remember it was his first time lending, and it was my first time getting money. And I mean, we didn't even do it the right way. I mean, it was just like so bad. But I mean, it still worked, because I did what I said I was going to do. And I wasn't going in with zero experience, because my husband knows, how he's built properties before, like commercial properties. So it's a little bit different, but he's not just totally like have no idea what he's doing, And so, it was stressful, but we made a lot of money on it, and he made money too. And so that was our first experience doing it completely wrong.
What about it was wrong? Tell us what it was wrong.
So first of all, when you're doing a novation agreement, you don't own the property.
Yeah.
So really, if you're going to get lending, you need to be able to secure it on a property. And we had no other properties. And so there wasn't any way to secure it. So we did a promissory note and a personal guarantee that wasn't recorded, which you absolutely can do. It's just, that's risky. I mean, you're taking a risk. And not only that, but he was second lien position. And so, which means, we have to pay the seller first, and then him second, and we didn't own the property. So we had a promissory note on a property that we didn't know, which we didn't even know at that point wasn't kosher, but it worked out for everybody. Thank God, So I do what I say I'm going to do, and he trusted me, and it worked out. And, we did it a couple more times with him and kind of got it like under our belt. And then once I started learning more and more, we were able to start doing it the right way after that. But yeah, it was good.
I love that you used your experience to like learn and just grow on top of that. That's amazing.
So I wouldn't recommend doing that. If you're a lender, don't do that.
But I think
you really like the person.
Was that your biggest takeaway?
There was a lot of takeaways from that project. It's novation agreements to me are scary. Mm-hmm. I think that there was too much renovation in that project, and I didn't even know how to protect myself. So I didn't even put a lien on the property. So I wasn't even protecting myself. I wasn't protecting the lender. So there was a lot in there, because the entire time, and everything was fine. I mean, we had hired a contractor, and he was really, really slow. And we eventually at the end had to end up like saying, we found someone else that's going to finish the project.
Yeah.
And he was really upset. So that could have gone wrong. Thank goodness it didn't. So there was just like a lot of things that could have gone wrong that we didn't protect ourselves. But this was also back in 2020. So, the market was good. So even like the longer that it took, the more money we actually made because of, it was like month to month appreciation back then. Like we just made so much money off margins, crazy. So we actually made a ton of money off of it because it took so long. But the whole entire time I was completely stressed out because at any given time something could go wrong.
Yeah.
And I had not protected myself or my lender in the right way. And so I knew that by the end of that project that I never wanted to do it that way again, that I had to figure out a way to protect everybody involved because anything can go wrong at any time.
I think too, the fact that a lot of us, when we just got into raising capital, we never did it the right way. Ever.
Right.
when I raised capital for the first time, I didn't know that's what I was doing. I didn't even I just used a promissory note that I saw off Bigger Pockets.
Yeah.
That's it. And as you said, it really could have gone wrong. And after that, I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing this again.
Yeah. Because it stresses you out, like you get very stressed.
Yeah. I'm like,
and there's no reason to be stressed like that, and so if you're stressed in real estate, it can be stressful, but it doesn't have to be because you can just, if you take all the necessary steps and protect yourself, then you're good to go. But yeah, so that was probably my biggest takeaway, like never stressing myself out like this ever again.
How are you raising, how are you finding private money lenders now? Like, is it through social media, like referrals? Like, how are you finding those persons and raising capital?
So, yeah, I mean, all my lenders are through social media and networking. Yeah, and I don't eat because I have 3 kids and I don't really travel that much.
Yeah.
So I would love to. I would love to be able to go to all the things, but I also don't like leaving them. And so I'm not, and I'm also, I'm not a millionaire and I can't afford $5,000 plane tickets, every 3 times a year. So I do like once or twice a year, I will do a networking event, but almost everything that I do is over Facebook. So I literally just network consistently over Facebook and bring value to people. So teach people how to do things, have, Zoom calls, like through the mentorships, making yourself known, like even here locally.
Yeah.
So I have, I guess he's kind of like a hard money / private money lender. He's a big real estate investor right around here. And he's seen my name a million times, and I knew that he was lending. And I'm like, why am I not asking him to lend on my flips? So I had a new flip that I bought a couple days ago, and I called him and I'm like, hey, I heard you're lending. And he texted me right back and he's like, yeah, what are your terms? So just because he knew me and from Facebook, he's seen my projects. I show people on Facebook what my projects are. I talk about, the things that I'm going through. I make my name known. Like, he's just like, yeah, let's go. I mean, and he knows the market. So I sent him the deal and he's like, yeah, these numbers look good. Congratulations. It's awesome. I'll lend you the money. So he says he's a hard money lender, but he doesn't put you through a qualification process, which is really nice. It's based off of, really nice. It's based off of, the project. He knows the area and yourself. And that's what the private money lenders are. It's really about relationship. And that's why I like private money lenders way better than institutional hard money lenders, where you have to give your heart and soul to the bank, in order to get a 6-month loan that's secured against a property. Like, it's just crazy.
No, that is right.
I get it. Don't get me wrong. I get it. And anybody can have their own process, but I also much, much, much prefer private lenders that's relationship based, you know, and then based off the asset and what the numbers are.
Now, I love that you mentioned the fact that you're finding most of your lenders off the and Betsy and I, we get asked that question a lot. They're like, how are you guys finding people? And we're like, they're finding us on social media because we're always posting and we're just always sharing what is it that we're doing. It doesn't have that. And a lot of people think that when we mention sharing what you're doing, meaning it's a project that you're buying, it's anything related to real estate at all. Any single thing, because people want to know that you're doing something. It doesn't have to be that you're buying your own property, but are you driving for dollars for someone? Are you doing a property walkthrough? Are you doing a transaction for paperwork? That's still considered some form of experience. So I love that you mentioned that you're always sharing. Guys, you should see.
Yeah, you're bringing people value by, you know, having this podcast, and you're constantly even like posting up there, or you're sharing what you did on a deal. Like your name's there. So the more your name's there, the more people see your name. And even if you're not doing a deal or you haven't done a single deal yet, if your name's there and someone sees what you're putting up and you're bringing value for a year, and you never even done a deal, they won't even know.
Yeah.
They'll think you've done 100 deals.
Yeah.
So that's really the key, is just being consistent and putting yourself out there. And, you know, people knowing your name and knowing that you're bringing value to a community.
Girl, you hit the nail on the head.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, hit the nail, because I can't even, I have to stress it, because people still, like, they're always like, I'm not doing anything. I don't have a deal. I don't know what to post. I don't like social media. And I'm like, with how the world is going right now, just post something and no one cares. It doesn't need to be perfect.
Just that they see you.
Yeah. Like,
yeah, I mean, I can't even tell you how many times I've done a deal where it's like someone from my network brought me a deal, and then I either keep it and buy it and go lend from someone in my network, right? In my business mentorships or my local real estate network, or I sell it to someone in my network, right? Like, if you don't have a network, like, you know what they always say, your network is your net worth, right? Like, if you don't have one, then you have to go get one. And it's just so easy to do, you know? And that's really, I mean, you can do it for free, even though I would suggest to, you know, find a mentorship. Like you said, not necessarily where you think they're going to do everything for you, but what mentorship is the best mentorship for networking, because that's really what they're for.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's really how you're going to build your business. And that's where you're going to find your deals. That's where you're going to sell your deals. And that's where you're going to get all your money to fund all your projects.
Yeah. It's really who you know. But before we wrap up, Betsy has one question for you.
Okay.
Well, I wanted to know how you balance work and life. Like, I know you have your kids, and then how do you do that all together and keep rocking it in real estate?
Yeah. Yes, that is like, gosh, isn't that the $1 million question?
Oh my!
It's so hard. I don't think that I necessarily have it figured out. You know, I think the one thing that helped me was, you know, we were in a mentorship together, the three of us, Keston's mentorship, and it's a mindset. And one thing really helped me was that I thought I want to be the best at whatever I'm doing, right? So I thought, if I'm the best at my job, okay, running my real estate business, then I can't be the best at being a mom. And if I can't be the best, you know, I can't be the best at being a mom if I'm doing this. So the one thing that really helped was that you can be good at everything that you do, right? So you are not labeled by what you do, right? So the first question that he asked us was, who is, you know, whatever your name, April Juliano. And, you know, the first thing you go to do is you go to say, well, I'm a mom, I'm an entrepreneur. It's like, no, those are the things that you do. Who are you? Right? So I think that's the very first thing that you need to figure out, is like who you are, who you want to be to the people in your business, and who you want to be to your kids. because more time doesn't mean better time, right? So I have to work. I have to put food on the table. And not only that, but I like it. And I love to work, and I want to. And this is what I want to do. And I want to show my kids that this is what we do. We work, right? You know, they get up every day and they go to school, or, you know, we have fun summer camps, but we do something every day, and then we come home and we have chores. Like this is life, right? This is what we do. So they're not going to just get handed everything. But I think that for me, that that shift in mindset really helped, because I didn't feel like, oh my gosh, I'm failing as a mom. And I no longer feel like, oh my gosh, I'm failing as a business person. Now, those things will obviously creep in. And, you know, that's why you need to remind yourself over and over, or call your friends, have your mindset business coach. Again, going back to the business coach thing, I'm all about it. Having somebody remind you, like, let's go back to who you are, who you say you are, right? So I think that's the biggest thing. And then, you know, the other thing is that I when they get home, I try to keep that time, you know, that like 5 to 8 o'clock time, or 4 to 8 o'clock, where I'm really with them and I'm doing things. You know, for instance, this evening, I'm not going to be home because I'm doing a seminar and then I'm doing a meetup. That's okay. You know, I just told him this morning, like, hey, I'm not going to see you tonight. Daddy's going to be here. They call it daddy sitting because, you know, I'm like, he's not a babysitter. He's actually your father, you know, so it's his job, just like me, but it's okay. You know, and I do my best. And I also love that I'm home and I'm working. So like, if they need something, they know that they can come up and talk to me. And then on the weekends, I will do some stuff for work, but I try really hard to spend really good quality time with them on the weekends, on Saturdays and Sundays. And it's enough, you know, and we have really sweet, precious times. And, you know, I know that they're happy. So I really feel like it's hard to say that there's a balance, because I don't really know if there is. And you have to do what you have to do. And when you're building a business, you know, you have to work a lot, but also to remember that you can stop and have time with your kids, and quality time is also really good time, no matter how short it is.
Or take a nap.
Yeah. I mean, shoot, you know, I'm 7 months pregnant. I've been taking lots of naps. You know, and I'm not a napper usually, but I'm like tired. So
growing a human.
Yeah. And that's been hard too. People have to remind me, like, April, you know, you have a whole, like a leech inside of your body, sucking everything out. You're growing a whole nother human. So I don't know. I think that it's hard to say that there really is a balance. Because, I mean, on a Saturday, if I need to get a deal signed, then I had to tell my kids, like, hey, I got to go do some work for an hour.
Yeah.
And they know, and they're good with it. But they also know that I'm there for them if they need anything. And, you know, I have an amazing husband, which also helps. But even if you don't have that, you still can be there for your kids and do this business, you know? And I think it's going to all come down to your heart and your mind, and like where you're at with all of that, to remind yourself, like, you're not your roles. So when you do feel like you're failing at your role as a mother, because I do feel like that sometimes, like, you know, I yelled at my kids, you know, if I think that defines who I am, then it's going to be really hard to get out of that funk. Right? Versus, oh, I made a mistake in my role.
Yeah.
And now I can apologize to my kid, and, you know, and then also know that, you know, this is really who I am, and they're going to respect me more for that than beating myself up for failing at my role. Right? Same thing in real estate. I mean, how many times have I failed? But the only way to actually fail is to quit. You just have to keep going and learning from your mistakes. And if I was defined by my role, you know, within real estate, then it would be really hard to get out of, and I might quit, because I'm not any good at this.
Yeah.
which is just not true. So I think it's just being centered and knowing who you are and knowing that your roles don't define you, but that is a part of what you do and that you can be good at all of it.
Girl.
That was amazing. I was gonna ask you for a take, like the biggest advice, but I mean that was great.
That was like, it's so good. Now I'm listening to you and I was like, I need to go back to that class that we did with Keston.
Yes.
I need to go over that class because it's a good reminder for us.
It is. I mean, it changed everything for me because there was just so much guilt, and because it's just like, oh, we're supposed to be with our kids all the time, like, oh, you're a working mom, and it just was a shift, and it changes everything. And if you can just visualize, like, who is the person that you want to be to your kids, like, that's who you are, right? So it's definitely good to get that and to get grounded and to get centered and to go back to that over and over and over and over.
Man. Wow. And I say this every episode, I need to have those gems where I can just do this and it just appears on the screen.
Yeah.
I need to like put that. This was so good, girl.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We need another here, I feel like, especially this week.
Aww. Well, you guys are doing awesome. I really appreciate you having me on here.
Thank you. Next time we have April on, she'll be like, girl, look at me now. This is what I'm doing my business. This is how like she just keeps growing, and we're like, remember when we did that episode and this is what we're talking about? Look at us now.
Yeah.
All right. Well, to finish up, whether you're looking to finance your next real estate project or new venture or existing business, we hope this episode gave you some insight and some gems. I'm sure we got gems. To navigate all about raising capital, you guys. We'll see you guys next time. Remember to follow April at April and Juliano or on Facebook. She says she posts a lot on there too. So, yes, you can follow us too. Our Instagram handles are right here. And we hope to see you next time.
All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. See ya.